Atanasoff and the computer, an invention that changed the world. Can you imagine going even a week without a computer? Computers are a vital part of our lives, now more than ever. However, almost no one knows who actually did invent the first computer. It wasn't Robert Oppenheimer or even Einstein, but an Iowa State professor, John Vincent Atanasoff, who first explored the field of artificial computation. While the Great Depression was coming to an end, Dr. Atanasoff was changing the world with Iowa State student Clifford Berry in the basement of the Iowa State Physics Building. The two encountered many difficulties during and even after the completion of the ABC, the Atanasoff-Berry computer. The two also exchanged information with other scientists, allowing the computer to be one of the most influential inventions of all time. On October 4th, 1903, one of the most brilliant minds was born. John Atanasoff was raised in Brewster, Florida. Since a young age, Atanasoff was very interested in mathematics, likely due to his mother being a math teacher and his father an electrical engineer. He attended college at the University of Florida, where he studied electrical engineering. In 1926, when Atanasoff graduated, he accepted a position as professor at Iowa State University in Ames. During Atanasoff's time at Iowa State University, he was continuously faced with the issue of long mathematical problems that took him and his students hours to complete. The most advanced calculating machine at this time was the Monroe calculator, which could only do simple addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. This process was very time-consuming and arduous for the more complex mathematics that Atanasoff and his students were working with. Atanasoff knew that there had to be a better way. What was needed was a computation device that could work with variables. In 1936, Atanasoff then set to work at exploring and designing the first electronic computation system to solve these complex mathematical problems in a quicker, more efficient way.
I looked the thing over and I knew that I had to build a computer. And I was shaken when I realized that that's what my future was. I wasn't enthusiastic about it. I didn't want to do it. But I knew I had to. And I knew that I had the means. Some way I felt as if I had the internal means to do that.
By 1937, Atanasoff had a basic layout of his machine. In 1939, Atanasoff applied for a grant from the university saying, "Since an expert computer requires about 8 hours to solve a full set of 8 equations in 8 unknowns, k is about 1/64th. To solve 20 equations in 20 unknowns should thus require 125 hours, but this calculation does not take into effect the increased labor due to greater chances of error in the larger systems. The solution of general systems of linear equations with a number of unknowns greater than 10 is not often attempted, but is precisely what is needed to make approximate methods more effective in the solution of practical problems." Atanasoff was then given a grant from the university in the amount of $650, around $11,000 today, and hired Iowa State University electrical engineering student Clifford Berry, who helped Atanasoff pursue his venture in the exploration and creation of the first fully electronic computational device. The two then exchanged ideas and began the building process for the machine. Atanasoff and Berry built the computer from 1939 to 1941. Thanks to Atanasoff's thorough premeditation, the process of building the computer went relatively fast considering how ahead of their time they were. The Atanasoff-Berry computer used binary and Boolean logic. It could effectively solve up to 29 linear equations simultaneously. The ABC was also the first device to use what is now known as RAM.
You may be thinking that this is a lot of work to solve equations and that you could do it as well by hand. But every time you double the number of equations, it takes 8 times more work. So before the ABC, no one even thought about solving systems as large as 10 by 10, say. Atanasoff wanted to solve problems in physics, statistics, and mechanics that always got bogged down in solving the systems of equations. Everything else you could pretty much do by hand, slowly. It took about 6 minutes to solve a set of 2 equations. It used binary logic, parallel processing, 15 decimal precision, a system clock, and dynamic memory. Modern computers are over 1 trillion times faster, but their underlying principles of operation are the same as in this 1940 computer.
John Atanasoff's and Clifford Berry's computer was an amazing feat of technology that introduced many new ideas to the field of electrical engineering and increased the level and capacity of achievable mathematics. When World War II started, the ABC was functional and nearing completion. Work, however, encountered an impetuous ending when Atanasoff left for a defense position at the Naval Ordnance Laboratory in Washington, D.C. During Atanasoff's absence, the computer was dismantled for scrap parts without his or Berry's knowledge. Atanasoff continued his work with the government and in 1952 started an Ordnance Engineering Corporation. Atanasoff retired in 1961. Shortly after Atanasoff completed his computer, work began on another, very similar machine, the ENIAC, Electronic, Numerical, Integrator, and Computer. The ENIAC was very large and, unlike the ABC, was programmable. Because of this, the ENIAC was in the public's eye and gained a lot of attention. Many believe that the ENIAC was the first electronic computer because of its programmable quality. While the ENIAC did make great strides to the computer that we see today, none of it would have been possible without Atanasoff and the ABC. The ENIAC used many of the same concepts and systems that the ABC used. However, the ABC was completed about 2 years earlier. This caused an unfortunate encounter with Atanasoff when the inventors of the ENIAC, John Mauchly and J. Presper Eckert, received a patent for their device in 1964, leaving Atanasoff to feel that his work had been taken, used, and unaccredited. Because of this, Atanasoff filed a lawsuit. This became the Honeywell versus Sperry Rand case. Before World War II, Atanasoff had hired a patent lawyer from Chicago. However, when the war started, this job was never completed. Atanasoff still felt that he and Clifford Berry, who unfortunately died in 1963, had proper rights to the patent, as most of the mechanics were designed by Atanasoff after all. Mr. Mauchly had shown interest in exploring the field of artificial computing years before and visited Atanasoff during his work on the computer. Mr. Mauchly had seen and exchanged notes upon Atanasoff's work, which was another reason that Atanasoff had decided to file a lawsuit against Mauchly and his fellow inventors. In a letter sent to Robert Orr, the director of the Iowa State University Library, Atanasoff writes, "During this period, elements of the machine were constructed and operated. All of this would have only casual interest except for the following statements, which I believe to be accurate. This machine was the first electronic digital computing machine ever built. This machine employed numbers to the base 2, as do most modern machines. This machine was the first to employ regenerative memory. The machine employed a capacity memory in its computing elements. Mr. Mauchly came to Ames at my invitation and studied this effort. Later he began development in this field mostly without my knowledge." Because of the reasons Atanasoff stated in this letter, he pursued legal action against Mr. Mauchly and Mr. Eckert. In 1973, after many years of legal battles, Atanasoff invalidated the ENIAC's patent to the electronic digital computer and put it into public domain. After this case, Atanasoff and Berry stand legally as well as morally as the original inventors of the electronic computer. Unfortunately, on June 15, 1995, the world lost another great inventor. Atanasoff was 91 years of age when he passed away. Through his time, Atanasoff was able to see his and Clifford Berry's vision become a common household object. Without their work and the exchange of their incredible invention, the world would not have the technology we know of today. Their invention still grows and is advancing every day. Because of Atanasoff, the computer has evolved through others to become a cornerstone of civilization that is used for everything from air travel to video games. Atanasoff once said, "Nobody really invents anything. We all learn on the work of others." This statement is ever so true with his own invention, which is considerably the largest advancement to society and education in human history.